Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that digs into the sources, cuts through the chatter, and hopefully gives you the insights you need without all the extra noise.
We try to cover all sorts of topics, from the really weighty stuff to the wonderfully weird.
Exactly. And today, we're definitely leaning into the wonderfully weird. We're asking, what makes a movie a legend? Is it always stunning effects or brilliant writing?
Or could be something else entirely, like
Yeah.
maybe being famously bad.
Precisely. Because for this deep dive, we are looking at a true public gem, a piece of cinema history that's famous not really for being good, but for, well, its undeniable uniqueness.
Yeah, we're talking about how a film that got labeled the worst ever made actually became this huge cult classic.
Right. Influencing pop culture way beyond what anyone expected, especially given its tiny budget. We've got some great sources, film analysis, history to really get into it.
So the film in question, the one, the only, 1957's Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do we even start with this one? I guess with the man himself, Ed Wood.
Absolutely. You have to start with Ed Wood. He wasn't just the director. He was the producer, the writer, and the editor.
Wow. Talk about wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
Quite the ambitious project for one person.
Totally. And it was filmed super fast, black and white, November 1956. It even had an early showing in March 57.
Oh, yeah. Under a different name, wasn't it?
It was Grave Robbers from Outer Space, which honestly kind of fits.
Grave Robbers from Outer Space. Yeah, that definitely tells you what you're in for. But it eventually came out as Plan 9 in July 58.
Yeah.
And then TV in 61.
That's the timeline. And, thinking about the 50s film scene, Plan 9 was... well, that was an odd mix.
How so?
It mashed together sci-fi, which was huge then, atomic age, space race anxieties,
Right.
with atom punk aesthetics, that sort of retrofuturism, and even gothic horror.
Gothic horror.
Yeah.
But wasn't that kind of on the way out by the 50s?
It was. You get this really strange blend of current trends and older styles. One source calls it having an anachronistic quality, which feels spot on.
So old and new clashing. And Wood had these massive ideas for it.
Oh, completely epic ideas. Stuff that needed a big Hollywood budget. But he had, well, next to nothing.
And he just went for it anyway.
He did. And, maybe that's part of the appeal now. One analysis describes his failed efforts as having this peculiar charm, like grand melodrama on a minuscule budget.
Or maybe even theater of the absurd, as one source put it. That struggle becomes part of the story.
Exactly. It's fascinating when the limitations become a feature.
Okay, so speaking of peculiar charm, the plot. We have to talk about the plot. It's something else.
Oh, boy, is it ever. So the basic idea is aliens are worried about humans.
Worried why?
Because we're apparently about to invent a solar night bomb.
A solar night bomb. What does that do?
According to the film, it explodes sunlight particles and could destroy the whole universe.
Okay, right. Destroy the universe. Seems like a valid concern for the aliens, I guess.
You'd think so. It actually echoes some themes from other 50s sci-fi, like The Day the Earth Stood Still, the whole humanity is too dangerous thing.
Sure, but how do they try to stop us? That's the Plan 9 part, right?
Yes, and this is where it gets truly bizarre. Plan 9 is, wait for it, resurrecting recently dead humans as ghouls and zombies.
You're going to use zombies
Yeah.
to stop the bomb.
The idea is that chaos will make humanity listen or, face armies of the undead. It's not the most logical plan.
No kidding. It sounds less like strategy, more like panic.
Definitely feels that way. And it leads to some memorable scenes. Pilot Jeff Trent sees a saucer.
Okay, standard start.
Then gravediggers get killed by a reanimated woman. Turns out she's the wife of this old man character.
Played by, well, we'll get to Bela Lugosi in a bit.
Right. So the old man then dies, and he gets reanimated too, along with a police inspector, Daniel Clay.
So zombies popping up. Meanwhile, the aliens. Eros and Tana. Interesting names.
Yeah, Eros like the god of love, maybe Tana hinting at Thanatos' death.
Oh.
They head back to Space Station 7 to get Plan 9 rolling.
Okay, Space Station 7. Got it.
And then things get even weirder. The zombie inspector attacks Eros, one of the aliens.
The zombie attacks the alien. Okay.
Yeah, and Paula Trent, the pilot's wife, gets chased by ghouls and later kidnapped by the aliens.
Right, and eventually they reveal the whole solar night bomb reason and lecture humanity about our juvenile minds.
That's the gist. It all ends with a fist fight on the saucer blowing up, and the zombies just sort of dissolving.
Wow. It's less a plot, more a sequence of strange events.
Pretty much. Just one bizarre thing after another. But unforgettable.
And a lot of that is down to the cast, isn't it? Especially Bela Lugosi. His appearance is legendary in itself.
Oh, absolutely. His posthumous billing. Wood used silent footage he'd shot of Lugosi for another unfinished film before Lugosi died in August '56.
What kind of footage?
Just random bits. Lugosi weeping at a funeral, picking a rose, walking into a house, dramatically stalking around in his Dracula cape near a highway.
So Wood just edited these random shots into Plan 9.
Yeah, and used a body double, Tom Mason, who didn't look much like him, by the way, for other scenes. Apparently, Lugosi's character was meant to be Paula Trent's grandfather initially, but they had to scale it back because of the limited footage.
That is truly bizarre filmmaking. And then there's Vampira.
Milanurmi. Second billing. Apparently, she insisted on having no lines because she didn't like Wood's dialogue.
Really? For how much?
Reportedly just $200. And she gives this amazing, silent, almost regal performance, like a silent movie star. Really stands out.
Definitely memorable. What about Lyle Talbot? He was a pretty established actor.
He was a total pro,
Right.
veteran character actor. The story goes he never turned down work. Did Plan 9 for $300 a day, paid in cash.
Cash.
Right.
Wow. Did he say anything about the set?
Oh, yeah. He described the studio as basically a wooden shack behind a hotel with lights made from tin cans with a bulb. Gives you a real picture of the budget.
Tin cans with a bulb. Incredible. And we have to mention Criswell, the narrator.
You cannot forget Criswell, the psychic predictor. His opening is iconic.
Greetings, my friends. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives.
And the classic, future events such as these will affect you in the future. Pure gold.
It's so wonderfully nonsensical. His delivery style, too.
Like a charismatic preacher, someone said, always calling the audience my friends, promising secret testimony, lurid secrets. Very tabloid, very sensational.
He bookends it perfectly, too, right? Can your heart stand the shocking facts about grave robbers from outer space?
And that final challenge, can you prove it didn't happen? Just brilliant showmanship.
It really sets the tone. Oh, and wasn't there a connection to other Wood films? The Kelton trilogy.
Right. Paul Marco plays Officer Kelton in Plan 9, but also in Bride of a Monster and Night of the Ghouls. So, yeah, kind of an early, unintentional cinematic universe.
Ed Wood, ahead of his time again. Which actually brings us to the film's reputation, the whole accidental ineptitude thing.
Yeah, how it became a cult classic because it was seen as so bad.
But maybe
Yeah.
it wasn't all accidental.
Yeah.
Or at least not all Wood's fault. One source pointed out something quite interesting.
What's that?
The film actually includes this plot point about a government and military conspiracy covering up UFO sightings,
Okay.
which was apparently pretty unusual for a 50s American movie.
Yeah.
That kind of anti-government stuff became way more common in the 60s.
So in a way, he was kind of ahead of the curve on that theme. Interesting.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But then you have the truly famous production quirks, the flying saucers.
Ah, yes, the legendary hubcaps or paper plates. Except they weren't.
They weren't. What were they?
Just cheap plastic model kits, Lindbergh line kits from 1952, apparently. Painted silver.
No way. Just model airplane kits. That's somehow even better. What about the alien makeup?
Well, the makeup guy, Harry Thomas, apparently had ideas elongated faces, cat eyes, green wigs, but Wood rejected them. We don't know for sure, maybe budget. But Thomas was reportedly so annoyed, incensed is the word used, that he asked for his name to be taken off the credits.
Wow. Really mad at Wood, another source said. And Wood just filled the gaps with stock footage, right? Military stuff, the Lugosi clips.
Yeah, mixed with shots of actual LA streets, pure low-budget ingenuity, you have to admit.
Absolutely. But then comes the big label. Worst film ever made. Where did that really come from?
That mainly got cemented by the Medved brothers, Harry and Michael, in their 1980 book, The Golden Turkey Awards. Plan 9 won Worst Film, and Wood won Worst Director.
That book really sealed its fate, reputation-wise.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker, the real aha moment from our sources.
Okay, I'm ready.
A lot of the mistakes people point to, the boom mics diffing into frame, actors reading scripts in their laps, seeing the edges of the cheap sets.
Yeah, the classic Ed Wood blunders.
What if they weren't visible originally? The film was shot in widescreen, 1.85.1. Wood actually framed his shots knowing the top and bottom would be cropped off in theaters.
Wait, seriously? So he intended for the mics and stuff to be hidden?
That's what the analysis suggests. It was only when it got shown later on TV or home video in the standard 4.3 or 1.33.1 aspect ratio that the full frame was revealed.
And suddenly, all those mistakes appeared.
Exactly, giving this false impression, as one source puts it, of total incompetence, when really it was partly a technical issue from showing it in the wrong format.
That changes everything. So its badness is partly an artifact of how we watched it later. Wow.
Mind blown, right? It makes you rethink the whole "so bad it's good" label. Was it that bad on original release?
Well, how was it received originally? Was it immediately laughed off stage?
Not really. It seems it was considered just an okay science fiction programmer, just another B movie. And in some places, it actually did pretty well.
Better than okay?
Yeah, like, it apparently did very respectable business in some cities. One example, Minneapolis. Plan 9, playing with a musical, apparently made $6,500.
Okay. How does that compare?
Well, in the same city around the same time, the big Frank Sinatra, Frank Capra movie, A Hole in the Head, made $6,000. Hitchcock's North by Northwest made $7,000.
So Plan 9 nearly matched Hitchcock and beat Sinatra Capra in that one market.
That's wild, isn't it? Often played on double bills, then sold to TV. So not a complete bomb initially, which makes its later reputation even more fascinating.
So how do critics see it now? Is it still just the worst?
It's mixed. Some definitely still call it that, but many others find it, like, too amusing to be the absolute worst. The ineptitude is part of the fun.
Right, the charm factor.
Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 66% approval, which is surprisingly high, calls it the epitome of so bad it's good cinema, justly celebrated for its staggering ineptitude.
And some critics go even further, right?
Oh, yeah. Josiah Teal at Film Threat gave it a 10 out of 10. Called it a quintessential cult classic and a testament to a love of cinema and making all the wrong creative choices.
Wow, 10-10. And the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction mentioned a shift, too.
It did. From jovial mockery towards a more nuanced appreciation, recognizing its dreamlike quality, the crazy dialogue, and, importantly, its irrepressible budgetary ingenuity.
So, a grudging respect, almost. What did the actors themselves think, looking back?
Ah, great question. Lyle Talbot, the pro, defended Wood, said Eddie was serious about his movie. He wanted to improve.
Okay, a sympathetic view.
But Gregory Walcott, the lead actor who played Jeff Trent, not so much. He called it the worst film of all time and said, 30 years later, it's come back to haunt me.
Ouch. Harsh. And Vampira.
Mela Nurmi was apparently pretty chill about it. Her attitude at the time was basically, nobody's ever going to see this movie, so it doesn't matter.
Little did she know. So beyond the initial release and the critical arguments, the film just kept going.
It really did. The music, for instance, was mostly stock music, compiled by Gordon Zoller, adding to that unique low-budget feel.
And didn't they colorize it later?
Yep. Legend Films did a colorized version in 2006. They even optioned off chances to insert new things into it, like a photo or a name on a tombstone.
That's unusual. And people riff on it, right?
Oh, yeah. Michael J. Nelson's Riff Tracks commentary is super popular. It just keeps finding new life, which leads to its cultural footprint, which is honestly staggering.
Yeah, it pops up in the weirdest places.
Totally. Like Glenn Danzig naming his record label Plan 9 Records.
And Bell Labs naming their operating system, the successor to Unix, Plan 9 from Bell Labs.
That's amazing. There have been stage plays all over the world. It gets referenced in Seinfeld.
The famous Jerry line. This isn't Plans 1 through 8. This is Plan 9, the worst movie ever made.
It's in video games like Destroy All Humans. There was even a Plan 9 adventure game.
The X-Files. Mulder says he's seen it 42 times.
Of course he has. And Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas has that character Behemoth.
Who looks just like the zombie Inspector Clay, a direct visual nod.
And speaking of Tim Burton, his 1994 movie Ed Wood, starring Johnny Depp, won Oscars. That brought the whole story to a massive new audience.
Absolutely. It even bled into Scientific American used the title Planet 9 from Outer Space for an article.
And music, too, right? A band used Criswell's opening.
Yeah, Crown the Empire sampled his monologue. It's just everywhere in these little ways.
It's truly incredible for a film made for peanuts with tin can lights.
It really shows how unpredictable cultural impact can be.
So we've gone through the bizarre making, the accidental fame, the technical revelations, and the weird, wide legacy of Plan 9 from Outer Space, a film that just refuses to die, ironically enough.
A true public gem, even if for unconventional reasons.
So what's the takeaway here? Maybe the real magic of Plan 9 isn't about technical skill. Maybe it's about, I don't know, spirit.
Yeah.
Ambition against all odds.
Yeah, its ability to just keep fascinating people, making them laugh, making them talk, even decades later. It challenges what we think makes a film important.
Exactly. It really makes you ask, in this age of polished blockbusters, what makes art truly last? Is it perfection? Or is it sometimes just the sheer, wonderful, slightly unhinged audacity of trying to make your dream happen, even if all you have is like $5 in a dream.
Something to think about. Can you prove it didn't happen?